Sprint.
Oh, good, that's fine.
I think we're ready to go.
There he is.
There he is.
2, 1.
There he is, there he is.
We'll just let it roll.
These buttons are so small.
Okay, we'll call the finance meeting
Sweet.
to order for the 25th today. And everybody's present. Next will be approval of minutes. Any changes or anything?
No,
If not, need a motion.
so moved.
Motion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Polls carried. Next is public appearance, non-agenda items. People here
All agenda.
something to say with on, okay, no problem. Next is the finance director's report. Misty?
The thing that's happening right now that's important is the audit. So auditors take the numbers as of next week, so we have a lot of last minute ticking and tying and making sure all of our numbers are 100% accurate with all the supporting schedules and all of that. So they're here, not next week, but the week after. So that's been taking most of our attention. That's it.
Okay. That was short and sweet, I think, huh?
I talk fast.
Next would be review of bills. These are checks 10,000 and above. These are dated 2/1 of this year through 2/15 this year. Total is $2,280,450.77. Any questions on those? If not, we'll go to the next batch. The next one is the all checks issued 1/20/397 through 1/20/510, dated 2/4 this year through 2/12 of this year. That total is $2,460,035.70. Any questions? Okay, next we'll go to the action items then. The first one, the financial report provided by Finance Committee and possible changes. Misty?
Yeah, so included in your packet is the ordinance and then just a little bit of background about what I wanted to talk about. So I think I mentioned months ago that I wanted to have this conversation, so now it was finally a light agenda, so I figured it would be the moment to have this talk. Included in the packet is the ordinance. So the list that you guys get of all checks, all ACH, and all P-card transactions that also goes to council, that's what's required under ordinance. That report for $10,000 and above that we then include the invoices attached, that was something that was requested a few finance committees ago. And so I wanted to talk about if that's still something that you guys find beneficial. It does take staff, depending on how many items and how much redaction there is, it takes staff between 1 and 4 hours to put that report together. All of the information is also on that list of all of them. Plus, if you did have one that you wanted to get, we could always email it to you that way as well. The point I wanted to make is that with everything out on the website, a lot of governments in particular have noticed that having so much invoice information has opened them up to a little bit more fraud, because it's pretty easy for somebody to look on the packet and say, oh, look, this is a big vendor they spend a lot of money with, and then ghost them somehow. I've heard of a couple of municipalities that got caught that way. So my purpose is not to say we don't want to provide the information. I want to talk to you to see if you thought it was useful and important, in which case we would definitely continue to still do it, but then also what dollar amount is appropriate. You know, is $10,000 the right dollar amount still, or should that be 25 or 50 or some other thing like that too? So open that up to you guys then to tell us what you want. We obviously will do whatever it is that you find valuable.
From my position, I think we are ultimately transparent always. Having said that, I think we have an equal responsibility not to open ourselves up to vulnerability. Now, what that sweet spot is, I can't speak to. I'm less concerned about our transparency and how we do things, because it's just fundamental to being government. And for me, I'd be more concerned about putting us out of harm's way from I'm in the technology space. I see how sophisticated some of these organizations are getting, and I certainly think it's going to get worse before it gets better. Mm-hmm. And so I think if we can stay a step or two ahead of that and make some modifications, to minimize those risks, that's where I would lean towards.
I kind of like it the way it's going right now, Misty, but I have a further comment about that. You know, 10,000 above, and then we list the checks. From your opening statement, is there a way to eliminate some of the paper flow then that happens? I'm okay with that. I don't think, if we know for sure, the wheels, I think, has been pretty good, and I don't want to interrupt that. And I guess I'm saying, is there a way that on some, it's 10,000 above, I don't have the other P cards in front of me, but as you said, the committee, anybody can always ask you about something if they have. But is there a way to leave it the way it is? But just like Janelle said, is there a way to get rid of some of that paper flow? I'm fine with that.
So the other option, which would still be very easy for staff, would be we could still include the report out of the system of these are all the transactions that were 10,000 and above, and just not include the invoice support stuff for you unless you request it. We could do something like that. That's relatively easy. Because part of it is we give you the whole list, but I can understand picking some of those out that are the bigger ones.
So just so I understand, so what we're saying is we would have a list, and in that list, we might have some summary detail, but we wouldn't have all of the granular detail that goes along with the invoice, and it's that granular detail that we'd see on the invoice that would make it easier for a hacker to ghost
Absolutely.
themselves in the process.
Yep.
Okay.
And so for sure, all of the checks are on the list of all of the checks. So then we could take it that one extra step and just pull out the bigger ones to draw your attention to them without including that support like you mentioned.
I like the $10,000 threshold. I think, I kind of agree with you guys. I think we're very transparent. We want to continue with that, of course. Obviously, people can make requests, and, the department will provide that information, and so I'm pretty comfortable with that.
So in conclusion, are we saying stay at 10,000, do the summary data, and then just not attach the detail on the invoices and protect that?
That would
meet
be-
everybody's requirements?
Will that help?
Absolutely. Yep, it's the putting the invoices together and then all the redaction. We try to redact as much stuff that we truly can that's sensitive.
Now,
but
keep
that
in
it also
mind,
reduces the risk.
for future people, I
Mhm.
already know how this is gonna go. They can ask for that invoice, and you might have to bring it back the next meeting.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Especially if you don't have it, Can I see invoice 35, we spent $45,000 at the fire department, what's more, I want more information.
Yep.
You could just bring it back the next meeting, I
Or
can
we
see that
could,
happening.
or we could email it to the whole committee prior to the next meeting, so if you had questions.
And then if there's one you want to see, it's all online. So if you let me know ahead of the meeting, I could have it up and put it on
From
the
what
screen.
Pat said, I understand, but see what happens too, keep in mind, you already know. When an alder raises that question on the air, sometimes it's better to
Get it
have it
answered.
up front just to answer it.
Mhm.
I agree with what you said.
Yep.
But it's just it clarifies it, I think, more to answer it. Well, people, and I can't tell you how many people are watching the show tonight in between their dinner or have popcorn at their desk. But I can tell you that if there's answers, they'll say, wait a minute, they never answered that question, and that's all I'm trying to avoid.
Yep.
That's all. That's
Absolutely.
fine. That'll work if it's okay with you too.
So still provide the full list of each one of those categories and then still provide the summary report that brings out the $10,000 and above payments, but not include the invoices unless it's requested.
Do you want me to make a motion to that extent?
That would be fantastic.
Second?
As I said. Sounds good.
As you said.
There you go. I'll write it up.
Got it?
So moved.
Got it?
Still need to vote.
We
Yep.
still need to vote.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Thank you.
It's funny because just tell me if I'm wrong, was it the last meeting or a couple back, we just talked about these checks?
Mhm.
Mhm.
And I brought that up, that
Mhm.
from the committee standpoint, that this goes through a number of channels before it gets to us. I really rely on that a lot, because you got three different sets of eyes looking at these. Because it's interesting, when I read this, even at a council level, 2,460,000, and these checks all go through, and sometimes I'm scratching my head why some alders don't bring it up or say more. But I know from this committee, this one, we've talked about that, how it goes through the checks and balances.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And I think that's important.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm gonna add to that, I mean, as I joined this committee,
So,
I remember thinking, okay, you know, where are our checks and balances, right?
Mhm.
Yep.
I mean, we've got checks and balances internally with staff, we've got checks and balances in our budget, and so often what we'll see within this committee is the throughput of what we've agreed on the budget on, and you've been great about saying, you know, this is the piece that was there, and then you go, yep, that was it.
Mhm.
And then in addition to that, we've got, you know, how many things that we do that have also been vetted through either a fair bid process or a state contract. So there are so many mechanisms to make sure that we are not only staying within the budget, but we're getting, you know, a good and fair price based on state contract or bid process.
Mhm.
Okay.
All right, I'm off my soapbox.
No problem. Next is the action items. Before I start, I do have a question. Reading this over prior to this meeting, I noticed that there's, what was there, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I noticed there were these 5 that we're acting on in finance, and then they're going to the city council tonight.
Mhm.
Was there other committees that should be looking at a couple of these and we overlooked it? Maybe not,
Well-
maybe not, but I just, it kind of caught my eye.
Some of those items are reviewed by other committees, like the renewable energy agreement that you see on there. I mean, the resolution and the project, that went through Plan Commission. So you remember that, Tom.
That one I do.
That
The-
through there. The,
That one I do, yeah.
the other item you see on there, it's parks related, the youth dance instructor, that goes through the parks budget process. And the DaneCom is an ongoing expenditure that you're aware of that went through extensive review several years back and is part of a larger county communication program.
Okay, keep in mind, I don't want to reinvent the wheel either. See what happens, I'm reading this on finance tonight, right? It comes up on finance, read it on finance. The way it appears on this paper looks, it just went to finance. You with me?
Oh, it did
just
for
goes to
this.
finance, it appears that it just went to finance, and I'm reading them off, and
You have a.
I'm just trying to
yeah.
see when I'm reading this paper, these tonight come to the city council. The chair of the finance committee reads them, but there's no other committee except it just looks like it went through finance.
That's because it did in regards to this approval,
You see what I'm saying?
but the programs as a whole have been vetted thoroughly.
Mhm. And then
Do
it
we
is
have to add
listed,
these onto here in finance with this, or maybe not? I'm just asking a question, you with me?
yeah,
You see where I'm going?
right. So generally, the one that's unusual to me is the RER, the renewable energy thing. Usually that would have the other committees listed under it. That's the only one that, you know, I know went to other committees. So that might just be a software glitch. We can talk to the city clerk about that. But the other ones really, like the CIP schedule, really is just finance and council that would approve it.
Yeah.
And then the referral sheet, that's
Just
for each
food for
agenda
thought,
item would
just
list
to-
it.
Yeah.
I picked it up on the council agenda when they're read tonight, and it looks like they just went to that committee, and that's all I'm saying.
So maybe for the benefit of the rest of council as well as public, we just kind of introduce that piece and remind people that it's been previously vetted out through this process as part of it. And then that light bulb will go on, so they'll be like, oh yeah, I remember we did that a while ago,
Or-
and so it's more of an issue of approving the expense than it is the decision, if that makes sense.
That's good for the mayor to bring that up.
Yeah, and if there's any questions, I'll be there to let them know what committees it went through and maybe explain the process. Danecom, as Tom knows, he was
I know.
mayor then, went
A
through
couple of
about,
these were, but
went through
when I
about
look at
4
read
years
this,
of vetting.
it's not
Yeah.
here, and it's,
Yeah.
you get the idea,
Right.
that's all.
It
Okay.
usually is on the other one, like if you look at the top of your page, there's a couple of other committees that particular resolution went through. So I think it was just a software glitch that
Danecom's been
particular
that
one wasn't there.
I'm not going there, okay. Okay. I think we're on R 2520, right? Is that where I?
Yep.
Before I ask that question. This is resolution R 2520, an annual DaneCon radio maintenance. I need a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Misty?
This is our annual payment to Danecom. So as Chief Pulvermacher reported, I think it was the last meeting, wasn't it? There's a amount of maintenance that we're responsible for based on our prorated share of the entire system, and that's what this is paying.
No questions.
Good.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, carried. Next is resolution, it's our 2720, a resolution approve a renewal energy rider contract with Madison Gas and Electric for purchase of electricity from the O'Brien Solar Farm. And we did have a discussion at Plan Commission about this. I need a motion.
So moved.
There it is. We did have a comment on this at the Plan Commission, and this is just a follow-up on that, I'm sure. Is there something else, Misty, before I start? Is there something
I
else?
think Phil does a great job kind of giving
Okay.
an overview.
Sure.
Phil,
So,
I might have you here, but I just have to have you introduce yourself.
sure.
And where you work.
So I'm Phil Groupie. I'm the sustainability specialist. I've been with Fitchburg for about 6 months now. So this is an extension of the O'Brien Solar Array that was approved by the Plan Commission. Specifically what's going on here is Fitchburg is MG&E and EDF are contracting out portions of the electricity generated by this project to various customers. There's a contract in front of us right now to approve 250 kilowatts of capacity, which is 1/80th of the total electricity generated by this project, that would be credited to Fitchburg. Anytime the sun shines, that 1/80th of whatever's being produced goes to offset our meters that are running concurrently. We'd be paying a flat rate of 6.4 cents per kWh for that for the life of the project. The rate remains fixed over 30 years. The estimate is that in year one, we should be credited with about 500,000, just under 500,000 kilowatt hours of electricity. That represents around 10% of our total electricity usage for the year. So right now, we're somewhere in the range of 11 to 13% is kind of my conservative estimate in terms of how much of our electricity municipally is supplied by renewables. This would put us at about 21 to 23%. Conservatively, which puts us well on our way to our goal of 25% by 2025. An added bonus of this is right now, so we've got John Drury and Scott Schmidt here as well from MG&E, just kind of to listen and fill in any gaps that I might leave. But Scott's calculation was that right now this doesn't include, we would still pay distribution and connection fees. So it's 6.4 cents on top of that. But right now, our cost of electricity produced is averaging about 6.8 cents per kilowatt hour. So already in year one, this represents savings on our electricity bills. The projection right now is in year one, we'd save around $7,000. And over the 30-year lifetime of this contract, as much as $250,000 reduced on our energy bills.
I'd like to make a comment about that one, though. So
Sure.
from a finance committee perspective, we are really focused on the numbers part of it. So when Phil and I had pretty lengthy conversations about this whole thing, there's a lot of assumptions built into that savings. So I wouldn't necessarily make this decision based on there being significant savings. My hope is that as long as we break even, you guys have passed that resolution that says that this is what we think is the right thing to do. So that should be what motivates it. I wouldn't bank on necessarily it being a huge cost savings, because there's a lot of variables in all of that information.
In your best estimates do you think that we'll be at a break even within the first couple of years?
I think the first couple of years is more likely to be a savings. It's more that
Mhm.
longer term where more of the variability comes in, you know,
And-
so if there's,
and
actually, you
so-
can speak to this.
Well, sure,
really
on the
well.
break-even point, there, we have no, unlike the 2017 solar project that we had, there's no upfront capital expenditures for Fitchburg, because this is, essentially, this is being treated as renewable energy credits, where MG&E is building, we can kind of consider this 20 megawatt array a new power plant. Just like any plant, the cost of that plant is being reflected in customer bills. And so the customers aren't paying upfront for the cost of that, those hard costs, that infrastructure. It's just, it's getting reflected on our bills over the life of this 30-year contract. So break even effectively starts right away. If the 6.4 cents per kWh is lower than what we'd be paying otherwise, then from the first kilowatt hour that we get credited with, we're saving money. So one wrinkle in this contract and in the resolution is right now there's 250 kilowatts of this 20 megawatts that's available to us. It sounds like this is very unlikely. It's pretty well fully subscribed, but we had talked about the possibility of up to 500 kilowatts of production. That would roughly double the amount of electricity coming in. I say roughly because there's a little bit of if at any point the amount that's credited to us is more than what all of our meters are using in that 15-minute increment, the excess we would sell back to MG&E at market rates, which is somewhere between, I think, 2 and 3 cents per kWh right now. At the smaller amount, 250 kilowatts, that excess that we would sell back is negligible. At 500 kilowatts, it becomes 0.5% to 1% of the total. So it's still a net benefit, but there's that little difference where it's not fully double the amount. But that's kind of, I just want to explain that wrinkle in the contract, that the resolution is approving 250 kilowatts of capacity, but up to 500 if something happens and more becomes available.
As an alder for District 4, I'm gonna have different questions at the Common Council. We had a number of our
Sure.
neighbors that were pretty involved in this,
Sure.
but I think from a finance perspective, I've got my questions answered.
Okay.
Do you, or maybe John wants to comment, the question I have been asked many times is, I saw the solar farm, I saw the solar plant, I saw it coming, I know where it's gonna be, I know, the city's been working on it. A little bit, is this gonna save the residents any money in the city? Our tough question to answer.
I'd say that's not something I can answer.
It really doesn't have an impact on the.
Could we actually have you speak into the
We
mic?
have
Oh,
I'm
sure.
sorry.
Yeah,
Thanks.
people at home want to see your face.
John, I just have to have you, I know who you are, but I usually do this to people. If you just introduce yourself and where you work.
John Drury with Madison Gas and Electric Company.
I guess, John, you know, people see all these panels out there, and they see all this, and they know a lot of this electricity. You and I have had this conversation. That power goes to the plant on PD, correct me if I'm wrong. A lot of this power is going from that location to the plant on PD. Now, I'm talking in Fitchburg, I'm talking here, and I did hear that this is the biggest solar plant for now, that can change, in the state of Wisconsin. That can change next week, you know, I get it. But as far as the taxpayers go, on their MG&E bill, will they see any change at all?
No, most customers will not see it changes, but there are many large businesses
Okay.
that will look to be contracting for power from that PV system, so they would see a change in theirs, but not customers in general, no.
Nothing, okay. Two other questions I had, these are neighbor related. If any animal gets on top of these, are they you name the animal. Just in general, if animals get on top of these, do they break, is there problems with them, or is there no problems with them, or how is that related, do you know?
Well, I think, these are all, shatterproof panels, so, they go through hail testing and they survive that, so I
Okay,
think of, like raccoons or something climbing up there, I don't see an issue with that.
okay,
They're pretty durable systems.
okay.
Yeah, so haven't heard anything about that.
Okay, no, and the last one is, does MG&E work with the schools or have any project like this around the Madison area that works with the schools as far as educating the children or classes or, it doesn't have to be grade school, it can be high school. Is there any, maybe that's too early to tell, or maybe you're in the process of doing something, but have you got any courses or anything in line in reference to education in reference to this? I think it's great in that regard.
Madison College recently installed a large solar system over at their east campus, the Truex campus. And I know the technical education instructors there are looking at incorporating coursework because they have such a large solar array to, train people on how to work with these, install them, troubleshooting, so. Scott, I'm not sure if you have anything else to add on that?
Yeah.
In the mic, sorry.
Take this chair. Just take this whole side of the table.
So.
Just have to introduce yourself, buddy.
Yeah,
where you
it's
work.
Scott Schmidt from Madison Gas and Electric. So we have other renewable energy rider projects. The school district of Madison has signed up for 2 megawatts of the Hermsdorf project, which will be located near the Rotefeld landfill. So they will have the ability with MG&E presence to take like a field trip. We'll also have monitoring, so that's there. We're doing another renewable energy rider project in Middleton. And so the Middleton Cross Plains School District is also a participant in that project. And so they will also have energy that's going to be supplied from this program for their use, and they likewise are interested in education. And then we just received word that the Board of Regents for the University of Wisconsin has also signed off on participation within this project. So the university will also have a sustainability interest in this project. So there are a number of educational groups that are all participating in these tariffs.
And when you say within this project, you're talking about the UW Regents being specifically interested in the O'Brien
That's right.
project.
That's right. So we don't have any, until we get everyone subscribed, we haven't actually executed service agreements that will be filed with the Public Service Commission for approval. We are governed by the Public Service Commission, so once we have, approval from the City of Fitchburg and all the other players, and we really have almost all players signed right now, we'll take this to the commission, get approval of all the contracts, and with that approval of contracts, then the O'Brien solar farms will be ready to be constructed.
Okay.
Just to add on to that, so back early during the initial discussions with the city and the neighborhoods with the O'Brien solar fields, we talked about actually having the local school districts involved with that one, to go out there, like I say, do trips out there, do some education, and, I would think they'd probably have that as part of their classwork, and then that would be their field work out there.
I know we talked about this in plan, and, I don't know, I think it's a huge piece to the puzzle. Just because it's not out there too. And, now you're telling me the university wants to look at it, and, I think it's a big deal, and, especially, when I first saw the solar farm too, I thought of the windmill, going out to, where is it, Sauk City or wherever the heck it is? Where, out to Prairie du Chien, there we go, out that way, they're up in the sky and they're on the farm, and this is a whole different deal. But I think the education, I don't know, you guys might have to go back to school and get a class and then bring these kids into the class, and, because I think it's a big deal, you know, the way it's going. And, wow, so close to the university. Whoever thought, right? Right, yeah.
I just wanted to clarify, is this gonna be the largest solar project in the county or in the state?
In the county.
In the county, okay. There's one larger one up in,
I'm not sure where,
So there are gonna be, so MG&E has contracted on some much larger projects. So one of the nice things about this project is it's 20 megawatts, and when you have a large project, the cost per kilowatt of capacity, the cost per really kilowatt hour being generated by it goes down, because you only have one mobilization, one demob, and all that. We have other projects as the utility for all of our customers that are even much larger than this. So there's, one was just approved by the Public Service Commission. I don't know if anyone saw that in the news this past week, but there's 150 megawatts that's going in Montford, Badger Hollow, and we're part of that. We've got 50 megawatts of that. Badger Hollow 1, same area, another 50 megawatts. So those are for all customers, and they really bring the cost of solar down. So when those get placed into service, and you're gonna see more of them, 20 megawatts will seem good. I mean, really impressive. It is impressive, don't get me wrong. But, you know, you're gonna see more and more large-scale solar going up in Wisconsin over the next few years, for sure.
I might stand corrected then. I thought the build out on this one, you know, I'm just looking at the O'Brien Farm and the build out and the looks of it. I thought it was the biggest one in the state of Wisconsin. Now, that can change next year, don't get me wrong, it can change.
Yeah.
But as I'm talking today, isn't it the biggest solar farm in the state of Wisconsin?
I can't verify that, but for instance, when we were talking about doing the first, I guess it was 300 megawatts, it was, what was it? 5 times all of the solar in the state combined since the beginning of solar. You know, so what's happening is we've had these real small steps. I mean, people doing what they can, but it was cost prohibitive. And now what you're gonna see is, with the cost of solar coming down, you're gonna see a big ramp. And so it is gonna be one of the largest. If you look historically, 20 megawatts is a really impressive, probably the largest in Wisconsin. Soon, within the next few years, you're gonna see a lot of solar get developed in the state.
so when it's completed, it may be, I know I've seen reference to larger ones in the state, but it might have been like Badger Hollow projects that aren't completed yet. So
Yeah.
you may be right. I'm certainly gonna look into that immediately and
Yeah.
figure out. That'd be great if it's number one in the state.
That's what I was
at the moment of
told.
completion. Yeah.
I was tracking this. The other thing is,
Okay.
let's just say I used to work in the building where the PSC is, and they seem to like everything that comes in front of them. And this comes in front of them. Have they ever denied one?
They have not. In fact, we have the one that's in Middleton for the city of Middleton and the school district. They've approved those contracts. So we actually have an approved tariff, and we actually also have these approved contracts with the individual parties. So that's a great, you know, first step, because what we're doing is we're really modeling all of these, you know, for all of the next RER projects.
Didn't mean to interrupt you, but can I put a stamp on this? This goes through the city of Fitchburg process. It goes through the communities in the city of Fitchburg. And then it has to go to the PSC. It can't go to the PSC prior to all these crossing the Ts and dotting the Is?
They want, so this is a large enough project where the utility is required to go to the Public Service Commission.
Okay.
And what we need to do is to assure the commission, because we need to assure the commission that this is a viable project. It's not gonna harm the people of Wisconsin. It's not gonna harm non-participants. That's a big component of the renewable energy rider, is that this is specific to the individual participants who are signing agreements, but it may not harm non-participating MG&E customers. So that's a big consideration for the commission. And so they will require approval before we're able to, move forward.
They'll say yes.
But then, each of the contracts being signed by the individual participants may differ slightly from each other, so once those contracts are signed, then the PSC has to approve those again, once those specific rates and terms are figured out.
The last question I have for you, and you don't get into it, but just give me a little thought on it, and that has to do with security.
Mhm.
I've seen he and I looked at the plan, I saw the plan, I don't remember it, honestly, I don't remember, John, if I asked you that. As far as security around it, is it fenced?
Mhm.
Yes.
Is it secured? Well, we could say it, is it secured with a camera then?
I don't believe it's secured with a camera. There are certain rules that if you have electric generation occurring, you have to have a certain level of fencing. So that's part of the Public Service Commission review. Is we actually, that's one of the components that they ask about is what are your fences
Security.
and all of that. Yeah. So it's something that they want to have a review over as well.
And those are some of the questions that I'll be asking on the council. We had so much feedback from our neighbors that were curious about how do you make sure that, you're maintaining the space without being concerned about, for example, just a deer getting in there, right, and harming themselves. And then there were, as you can imagine, a number of concerns about aesthetics, but I think for discussion's sake, I'm gonna save those questions for common council so we can have a broader brush on it. And, more likely that those questions will come then from the alder position instead of the finance position.
Okay, is there anything else?
Well, good. That sounds like a good project.
I'm good.
Yeah.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried, thanks. Thanks.
Great, thank you.
Thanks, gentlemen.
Next is resolution, it's our 28-20, annual youth dance instructor payment. I need a motion.
Motion to approve?
Okay. Scott, or Mr.
Scott can do it.
And this is one of the programs that's offered through the Recreation Department, which is a 80/20 program offering. And this actually, with the number of participants that are participating and the 80% that's given to the instructor, meets the threshold of over the $25,000 amount, so we need to have a resolution. Maybe just to put a little context in it, the annual report for 2019, this instructor actually had 13 sessions of dance class with 297 students that participated. So, and it's a successful program, and really I think it kind of bodes well for that 80/20 because the instructor will receive 80% of the fees, so they want to make sure that they're putting on a good product and those kinds of things. And on the other hand, too, with the Recreation Department, they just basically manage the program, and we receive that 20% to manage it. So it's kind of a win-win, but just a bit of information about that.
Did you teach Fred and I how to dance?
Probably. I don't know. They have
Definitely can't teach me how to do that.
They have tutus and all of that kind of
He's supposed
stuff.
to lead. He gets
Well, and
to
what's
talk about it.
kind of neat about it is they have what do you call it, a spring and a fall kind of thing up at the Oregon, at the Oregon High School, and it sees these little kids that they have like a 45-second routine or whatever, and it's pretty cool.
How old are these kids?
Well, actually, I've got a list. They're young kids, 5 to 7, 6 to 8, and then there's creative dance 2 to 3, hip hop, jazz 6 to 9, pre-ballet, ballet, dance 7 to 10-year-olds.
So this is a fairly large program as far as age groups and
Yep.
dance styles, et cetera, et cetera.
2019, 279 students participated, so it's pretty,
Very cool.
yes, very, very good.
I have no further
Okay.
questions.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried.
Thanks, you guys.
Thanks, Guy.
You bet. You're welcome.
Next one is resolution, it's R 29-20, adopting the 2021 through 2030 capital improvement plan, CIP schedule. Need a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Misty?
So included in your packet is a draft CIP schedule. There was one change from last year that I included, is just, we always had that committee of the whole meeting to talk about our financial policies before Ellers came in to tell us where we stood with our financial policies, and I just formalized that in the schedule. The one thing I am going to ask you to, did we get a motion to approve?
We did.
Janelle? Excellent. Sorry, I didn't note that. The one thing I'm going to ask Janelle to do a friendly amendment on is Mayor Richardson intends to cancel the first meeting in July, which was when I had scheduled the first public hearing. So I'd like to move that public hearing to be the second meeting in June instead.
So moved.
Excellent. Other than that, it's basically what you've seen in the past.
There are no comments? Anything? Nope. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Now,
Carried.
will you be at Comment Council tonight?
I wasn't planning to be, unless you need me.
No, I'm only thinking, you know, just for somebody to remember to call out that detail that we've modified this.
I'll remember.
You
Yeah.
got it? Thank
And
you,
then
sir.
when you make your motion to approve it at the council level, just say as amended by Finance Committee.
Perfect.
Announcements, anything? If not, next meeting is March 10th, same time, same location. Motion to adjourn? I made the
So
motion to
moved.
adjourn, whatever.
Okay.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned, thank you.
Thank you.